Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here this evening with our new friend Matt from A Will Away. Thank you so much for joining us, and sorry I had to really enunciate that to make sure there was no tongue twister madness happening so early in this interview.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me, guys. This is great.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what the band is about? You know, all that good stuff.
So my name is Matt. I sing and play guitar in A Will Away. I'm in that frontman role of sorts, which is always super weird for me. We're a rock band, sort of a. It's hard to describe. I always want to say sort of like a classic alternative rock band, but that's always the hardest thing to pin down. We play a lot of like fun, interesting pop rock music. I think that if you like anything on the rock spectrum, you're probably going to enjoy what we do. So super happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
I mean, you kind of have some like old school like Weezer vibes at times.
Yeah,
so I think that's like
classic alternative.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, so I'm older, and we'll just get this out of the way. And that,
Same, bro.
Okay, cool. So it's like, all of that is like just what I listen to. So like hearing like Weezer is like classic rock, classic alternative. I'm like, no, no.
Yeah, it makes me feel the same way. It really does. And I think that's part of like kind of where we come from is like the idea that like that whole idea of rock music that sort of exists in that radio friendly but generally alternative capacity. It hasn't fallen completely by the wayside. It's just kind of living under the surface in a certain way.
Yeah. I think it's always gonna stay there. Like, I think a lot of people have recognized, like, through all of the nostalgia and the bands, like, all these, like, the pop punk revival, the emo revival, and all this, like, people are really more willing to, like, learn where a lot of this came from, and they're more interested in, like, some of the stuff that, like, these bands had in their childhood, or, like, I never checked out Weezer. Let me check out Weezer. And then, people realize, like, oh, Weezer's old stuff is, like, real fucking good.
Yeah. We've come full circle weirdly enough to like that like 90s is back in vogue and like late 90s is starting to come back, and like I feel like all of a sudden there's this moment to spring and be like, wait, there was a ton of good music back then.
Like now that we're finally okay with Limp Bizkit as a band, right. And Fred Durst as a person.
We accepted Fred Durst into our heart and souls, so now we can accept the fashion into it as well.
Jinko jeans and all.
Oh God!
Bring them back.
I saw a tweet that one of my old coworkers posted, and she was at H&M with her daughter, and they had basically like it was like 90s grunge punk vibes. She was like, "Wow, I can't believe my early 20s are back in style." And I almost commented like, "Yo, Bessie, I dress like that. What are you talking about?"
It never went out.
It's been here.
That's just who I am.
Dress like it all the time and get made fun of sometimes, but it's okay.
You also have some very okay, so I got a photo for like the promo stuff.
I got a photo.
I'm so curious where this is going.
The photo name that we received was Spittin Chiclets, and I'm like, okay. What's going on here? So I went to your Instagram and there's like a bunch of stuff that says Spittin Chiclets. And I'm like, looking at your records, it's like Stew is the upcoming record out next year. Your previous record was Soup. I'm like, huh. So, what?
Where'd the chiclets come in?
Okay, so Spittin Chiclets is the name of the second single that we released, sort of in the long lead up to our record announcement. So Spittin Chiclets is one of the songs on the record. It's one of the, I guess I can say now at this point, it's one of the earlier songs on the record. It definitely takes a lot of Weezer reference. It kind of lives on this hanging riff that's very reminiscent of El Scorcho, and the song is named sort of aptly, both because of the fact that like Spittin Chiclets is like chiclets being teeth. It's like it's also the name of a hockey podcast that we listen to a lot on, when we're on the road. And the idea is sort of to discuss, just the degradation of the physical body, I think, is part of that, and sort of the weird ideas that come along with that, at least as far as you perceive it. And so for the record, Spittin' Chiclets is a song that has sort of this weird dual meaning, and it's a single that we put out not that long ago. Probably 2 months ago. And it's also one of our favorite songs on the record because it has that weird saturated alternative Weezer influence to it while being slightly darker on that, on the turn.
It just feels very like different, interesting. And I'm like, I don't know what that means as not a, hockey fan myself or somebody who's not that like into it. I'm like, fuck. But I'm also like, I need to know more. Like, what's going on?
Chiclets is supposed to be like, the gum.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you guys remember that when you were kids? Yeah, little candy gum things. Yeah. So it's like, that's all it is. It's like whenever you get your teeth knocked out, it's like Spittin' Chiclets. Like,
natural things. So do you say that like when you're in a fight with somebody, you say, I'm going to make you spit chiclets, and they're like, what the hell does that mean? Then you catch them off guard and you're like,
I don't think so. I think it's more of a thing that you describe as a condition of yourself where you're like, I'm spitting chiclets, dude. Like, I got my shit rocked.
Oh my God.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's really more of what it speaks to is like, I got my shit rocked. Like,
gotcha.
Okay.
See,
we have to make sure we're using it in the correct context here. So somebody isn't like, hey, no.
I'm fight averse, but I am friends with Lizzie and she's ready to fight at any time. So you never know. So I might be the one spitting chiclets, or she might threaten me that I'm about to be spitting chiclets.
See, that's the right way. That's the right way to use it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Lizzie, you got a new thing to threaten me with.
Wow, that's crazy.
I hate it.
So while you guys are listening to podcasts on the road, you guys also have your own podcast as well.
Yeah.
And how has that been, and how did that come to fruition? Because I feel that there's a lot of bands that have started podcasts, especially over the pandemic, as extra content, but we don't see too much follow-up from a lot of those bands or record labels even, because it is like a lot of work to put into it. So how has that kind of been working around your schedules and also just creating and developing this content and keeping it consistent?
It's definitely been a little bit difficult, literally because of what you said, working around everybody's schedules. And not only working around everybody's individual schedules, but sort of working around the band schedule as a whole, which is also a challenge in its own right? So like the reason that we started the podcast was quite to your point. Like we listen to a lot of podcasts, especially when we're touring, like way back in the day. So we've been a band for just shy of 11 years at this point. And when we first started touring, talk radio was like the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, especially as you're driving through random plains and stuff, like just the random middle America portions where there's like not a whole lot to listen to. You always throw on that AM talk radio, and we always really loved that. And then obviously with the advent of like YouTube and all these other platforms, we started doing, we started listening to a lot of like variety podcasts. Spittin' Chiclets, for example, is a Barstool podcast that covers, hockey stuff, which just happens to be of interest to us by virtue of our tour manager, who introduced us to it. But all of that stuff sort of stems from what I think is sort of like the Howard Stern model of talk radio, where it's like people enjoying themselves and having a good time and capturing that in real time. And so we started doing the podcast thing sort of as a part of our transition from touring and having to cancel touring due to the pandemic and rolling into the pandemic cycle of just like, it's going to be 2 weeks, it's going to be 4 weeks, or wait, it's going to be 2 years. Like, what do we do to connect with our friends and our fans? And we started doing a Discord server where we started testing the idea of a podcast. And then we started doing the podcast out of our studio, which is right down the road. And we started to figure out kind of how it works, like, which I'm sure you guys know, but like it's a long, arduous process of figuring out how it works. Like, how do you broadcast effectively? How do you make it sound good? How do you make it look good? Like, so we went through that whole same process, and we do the podcast as often as we possibly can by virtue of everybody's schedule and the band schedule at this point. But it's been tremendously fun because we get to actually introduce ourselves as individuals to the people who listen to us, more so than we ever get to when we're standing at the merch table with booming loud music around us, or hanging out at the van for 15 minutes before we take off for the next city. So
yeah,
we love it. Yeah,
I'm always like, bands just don't do enough content that really like showcases who they are and give them like a personality outside of just the music, right? Like you can listen to the music, you can get an idea of who everybody is, but like people also want to like connect with all of you. Yeah, exactly. Like it's all a vehicle. It's all a self-encompassing universe around your band or around whatever you are. So, I mean, it reminds me of like Thai TV, like the Academy is TV, or like bands that would do like road vlogs and like post those up. And back in the day, that was everybody's thing. Everybody was like, this is the coolest shit. Like, I think that a lot of bands are really missing that opportunity. So it's cool to hear that like it's, something you can do now and give that content to people.
Yeah, and truth be told, man, like we did it out of a want to socialize. Like after a certain point, we were like, we really like we're getting a little stir crazy. We want to socialize, and that it really served a certain purpose in that. And like we start every podcast by saying like, hey, this is the podcast where we hang out, shoot the shit, and talk about the things that happened to us this week. It is not about the band. It is not about ourselves in the way that like it's not this sort of like brand centric thing that we do. Right. It's just like we just hang out, shoot the shit, and talk about the things that happened to us this week.
Yeah. I mean, it is about the band and the fact that it is all of you, but it's not about the band and like, it's
not like the only thing you're talking about is let's talk about your songwriting and music and everything like that. You're like, no, let's talk about like the batshit crazy thing that happened when I walked
that weird thing that happened to you when you were in 11th grade. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And like our guys have known each other for that long where it's just like, they're like, hey, do you remember that time that it was like senior year of high school and like a giant softball hit you in the balls while you were playing sports? Like, well, yeah, like it's that kind of nonsense. I mean, we have a lot of fun with that. Like,
I'm sure those stories go over quite well, right?
yeah, most of the time.
Listen, and it's always good for fans too. They can be like, hey, have you listened to the podcast? Did you hear about this one time that they had this? And it gives them like better, like they some like one up on people, and people like to do that, and I get it. So I mean, you add that level to people who are like
more human.
Yeah. They're just like me. I've also been hitting the balls.
I also forgot to wear my cup in high school baseball.
It seems like you guys have been like obviously you've been a band for like 10 years, so you guys must have been friends for like the whole time, or friends for
longer than that, forever. The weirdest thing about our band is that like we're sort of that like classic hometown band where like we're all dudes who grew up within like a mile of each other and got together when we were like younger kids and knew each other growing up and stuff. Like our drummer Sean and I have known each other since we were 3. The remainder of us have probably known each other since we were in elementary school. And that sort of knowing each other is this weird, like funny, ethereal thing because it's like you don't know each other when you're 13, right? But like you get to know each other. And we started playing music. Things started going well. We did a ton of DIY touring, and then we got signed to labels, and then we started doing the whole like professional touring thing. And throughout all of that, we've always been this like core group of really loving, heartfelt people who just kind of like do it for the love of doing it. And I think that like the mission statement has always been like, we want to do this together for as long as we possibly can. And when that comes to a close, we'll happily ride on to the next thing. But like until then,
ride off into the sunset and then record a podcast as you ride off into the sunset.
Exactly. Document the sunset ride.
Start reminiscing about it ahead of time. Hey guys, do you remember when?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, I mean, because we've known each other for so long, we do a lot of reminiscing, and a lot of reminiscing comes up in the writing itself, kind of by virtue of that.
I've always thought, like, I mean, you always say, like, don't start a business with friends because it's really hard to, like, manage it with friends. But I also assume it depends on how good of friends and how long you've known them. I imagine if you've known somebody since they were 3, it's like, don't fuck with my money. I know some shit about you.
Yeah, it's like, I know all the dirty deeds, and I will go and tell your parents right now.
You paid the bed until 11. Like, don't fuck with them.
Oh no.
There are some very deep degrees of trust, and also I would argue that like there are some very deep degrees of sort of like odd distrust that you start to like over the years. You start to like see things in each other where you're like, I don't remember you like this. You know?
Like, when did you start to drink? Oh no, excuse me.
Yeah, there's some oddities. There's a lot. I would argue that the good always outweighs the bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I mean, you go through it together, and I would argue that like, for as long as you've been on the road together and stuff, like when you're out together, you see each other's best, you see each other's worst, and regardless if you've known each other since you were 3 or if you knew each other since you were 30, you're gonna see who everybody is while you're out there on the road, and you're gonna decide right then and there whether or not you want to keep doing it with the guys you're doing it with.
It's really like stress testing it almost immediately.
100%. 100%.
I had a band that we never went on tour, and I was like, good. I don't think we would survive a tour. I don't want to do it. Like it was like,
you kind of tell, right?
Yeah. we were like, oh, we should get a van. We should do all this. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think we're going to get along.
That gut feeling's telling me big hell nah, besties.
Yeah. So it's, I 100%.
Dude, thankfully for me, that gut feeling drove me to spend literally the entirety of my adult life with these
with these miscreants.
With these miscreants, these people, they're literally my favorite people in the world. And like I it has been a love and a pleasure, and with all of like the ebb and flow and all the up and down, I couldn't ask for better people to do it with. So yeah, absolutely, like that. It comes into play. That the long-term notion of how you know each other comes into play.
Yeah. There's like, I don't know. I think it's different for everybody, but I'm glad that like there are people that are showing that it's clearly possible to be friends with everybody you're in a van with. And like, I don't know. We've talked to a lot of bands that like get along. I'm like, oh, so you don't need like some kind of monster type therapy session where everybody sits around a table with Bob Rock.
Hey, we do that on our own time.
Yeah. It's literally like you're saying it. I'm like, it's literally the podcast, right? Like you're literally doing some kind of monster as the podcast. And that's basically what they did.
And a lot of times, like you do, like I mean, dude, conflict is inevitable. You sit down with everybody though, and like you're like, oh, I love what we do. I love you so much. This is such a great thing. We should keep doing it. You find your way to the good, and it's so good. And like, I mean, dude, the only thing that you ever wait for are those moments when you're on stage together and that connection happens, and it's like lightning, and there's nothing else in the world that replaces it. There truly isn't.
Must be nice. It's
wow.
No, it just makes me jealous.
The amount of like stories Brian has told me about his old band and like current stuff, I'm always like, hey, are you guys all right? Do you need a mediation session?
There is a certain amount of like, I don't have a band anymore, but I do have a podcast. So that's the natural pipeline of like bands don't make it to having a podcast pipeline.
You're just every other 30-something white guy who says
sure fucking
I have a podcast now. It was either that or creating craft beer. So those were your options.
I was this close.
One
podcast craft beer.
I was this close to starting distilling like my own whiskey. So I'm sort of there. God. But this was like years ago. Yeah.
Dude, over the pandemic, I started brewing my own cider. So I'm right there with you.
It is.
Oh my
awesome.
God.
It's so... like it's a good hobby. It's basically just waiting, and then you get to like experiment and try.
Just waiting around. Like...
You're essentially just waiting. It's a perfect hobby. It's like doing laundry, but you get to get drunk at the end of it.
Exactly. It's like doing laundry, but it takes 3 weeks, and then when it's over, everybody's happy.
Yep, everybody's having a good time. You get to have a party, bring everybody over. Like, yo, we're trying my new cider. You know, come on by.
That's great.
And everybody wants to come by. My buddy did it with prison wine, though.
With what?
Prison wine.
Like Pruno, like toilet wine.
Basically, you would put like like the canned fruit or like all that kind of stuff and like heavy in sugar. Real syrupy. Put it in like Hawaiian punch bottles and then put it in his bathroom and just like
oh my god,
yeast and all that. Like you did it like
you put it all together.
You put it in a Ziploc, you drop it in the back of the toilet, like right in the tank, and you let it sit. And nobody discovers it for 3 or 4 weeks. And when you're done,
you invite all your friends over and you just lose your eyesight. It's
the principle.
Wow, that's so wild.
It was legitimately not that bad, though. I was very skeptical at first, and then I was pleasantly surprised.
Right to be skeptical.
I mean, it's just sugar and fruit juice. Like, it can't be that bad.
It's my first fermentation. It's what it's all about.
Baby's first wine.
Exactly.
I don't like that.
I don't know if that's how that works. Like one of my old coworkers once started making kombucha in his house, and he brought some one day. I was like, "Oh, this is good." And then he's like, "Do you want to eat the Scooby that comes with it?" I said, "Absolutely not, sir."
Okay, I don't know.
The Scooby, whatever it is. And he was like, "You want to eat it?" I said, "No."
It's like it's a little jellyfish-looking bacterial colony that floats on the top of the kombucha.
You can eat it if you want to.
I know.
Do you want
to
feel something?
I'm not big on the SCOBY myself. I know some people who do get down with the SCOBY, but it's not my bag personally. Like,
I mean, like in a way, it could be a power move, I guess. If you wanted to you wanted to say, "I am better than you," just take like a big chunk out of it.
Bite a bacteria.
I'd be like, "Yo, are you okay?"
Oh my god. Yeah. No. That's like how you have like your like mother culture or whatever it's called, and then you like take that and you make something else with it, the whole thing. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm like, we can move on to something else. Don't worry about it. It's like
actually talking about genealogy now. Isn't that crazy? How you went from one to
Let's talk about bacterial colonies.
Look, okay, we're gonna dive deep on bacterial colonies. You just like you have like a certain thing, and then you use that to like make the rest of your stuff.
It's
so
like a yeast culture. It's
and then you like
starter.
You spend a lot of time like developing it and developing the flavors and developing, this family of bacteria, and then you just like give it to new things. Bread.
Hold on, I'll give you the segue. Which much like music is
your latest single, Karma.
Yeah.
I believe this is the music video that you shot in a school.
We did.
Yeah. So speaking of like nostalgia and the shit we were into in high school, was that kind of the inspiration for that?
Okay. No. So the biggest thing that I can say is that yes, it was like inspired by the things that we were into in high school, but I also kind of want to give that the caveat as being like it's also kind of the shit that we're into now as adults, because like the way that we wanted to frame this, and like thanks to Brent Campanelli, who's the director of the videos, he came to me with this concept, right? I want to do a sort of John Hughes coming of age tale.
Hell yeah.
With this video. He was just like, I want to do like the funny, like, like classic, like we're going to do like Fast Times, we're going to do like Breakfast Club, where everyone is inappropriately old to be in high school. And it's like funny, it's quirky. We do these weird cutaway sequences where like these weird like things that would never actually happen in real life, and it's going to be really cool. And the teachers are going to look like teachers and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I love this. This is so funny. Let's do this. And when I brought it to the guys, they were like, yes, what can we do? How can we camp this up in just the right way? And what we ended up with was the Karma video, which is, I think, to a T, hilariously exactly that, where it is just absurd. I mean, like, our guitar player playing the solo of that song on a 76 Cadillac limo was pretty much the icing for me.
Sure.
Where like I was told that he was going to be on the car. I was not told that he was going to be on the car while it was moving.
Listen, you have to be dynamic in what you do.
Yeah.
Of course, right? And our first concern was his safety, and our second concern was, is the shot awesome?
See, in my mind, I'm like,
if he rolls off of it, is it worth it? Does it look
worth the
sick?
shot? Yeah. And across that entire day, I mean, it was. I would say, and I have said in interviews about this, like, my favorite thing about it is it is probably my favorite day of being in the band ever. Also, one of the hardest work days we've ever had. Like, there were multiple costume changes. There was a 41-man crew doing the entire thing. It was like living on a TV set for the day. And it was also in this like old sort of classically New England high school, like very nearby to where we live. So, and we had to get there at 6:30 a.m. Yeah. And there's a whole host of other stories that kind of come along with what it was like to show up as a grown adult trying to do a rock video in a high school at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. I don't know. It was so much fun. It was such a good time. It's arguably the thing that we are most proud of that we've accomplished up to this point, simply because it was such an undertaking, and there were so many people that had to like coordinate to get it done. But it's also probably the video for our favorite song that we've ever put together, which is Karma, which is just kind of hilarious in its own right. Like it aims to be and achieves being ridiculous.
I love that. I do think you got to get the shot, and we'll figure it out after. But
yeah,
if somebody hurts themselves, like Mike Hem, a couple people almost died making famous last words, and look at them now. They're fine.
It'd be that way sometimes.
They're fine. You just
got to dedicate it to the art form.
Yeah, it's about the art of the guitar solo.
Yes. If you get a concussion, no worries. It looks sick. You'll tell it,
dude.
It looks sick. You're gonna reminisce about it in another 10 years.
Yeah.
And then, hey guys,
those justifications on set are very real. Where it's just like, I feel like I'm gonna keel over and die. Can anybody get me a Gatorade? And they're like, no, we need 3 more shots. And you're like, okay, I'll die for the cause.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll die for the cause. Do I get the blue
good.
Gatorade though?
Yeah.
That's what matters.
At the end of the day, you get the blue Gatorade.
Get the blue Gatorade.
That matters.
Well, at least I get the blue Gatorade. It's going to be my one motivating statement that I say to myself from now on.
Oh my God. And then you're going to walk down the street and be like, I got my blue Gatorade.
I need to keep some in my fridge just so I don't have to like work that hard to get it. Like it's a very easy motivator,
You'll just
it
feel like
sounds
it's like a reward.
Yeah, it's a reward. It sounds like, I assume that most bands have a budget about $10 and a high five to make a video with. So it sounds like you had like quite a budget for it.
We had a reasonable budget to do not only the video, but the entire record. Rude Records really came through with like the budget for us to do what we wanted to do. I mean, their entire philosophy from the jump has been let artists be artists. So it's like when we come to them with an idea, thus far, they've been able to budget it in, and they've been very kind to us in terms of how like we wanted to execute this, and they helped us execute this.
That's sick, because I know like it just feels like a lot of artists like we're shooting in somebody's apartment, and it's like a couple shots and performance videos in the kitchen, and then.
Well, dude, the hardest thing for us is like we went into all of these music videos, of which we've done 3 really tight ones that have been released so far, and we still have more to come. But our entire philosophy behind this was like music videos are boring.
Yeah.
Like, why are music videos boring? How do we circumvent what makes them boring? Like,
if there's a girl looking for something in it, it's boring. It's done.
Yeah, it's done. It's dried out.
If she's wearing a dress,
extra.
like a white dress, and she's in the woods, you're done.
if there's a group full of white dudes playing guitar for the entirety of the video, probably pretty boring. You've seen it. Like, how do we avoid this, right? Like,
you're in a warehouse, you made a mistake. You showed up at the wrong place.
You made a whole ass mistake.
Yeah. So we went into it with that philosophy, and we wanted to try and figure out, like, how do you make this fun? Like, what was it about the videos that we enjoyed growing up that were fun? Right? Like, and a lot of the time, the thing about that was like odd set and setting, weird costuming, strange, like, sort of thematic backdrop. And so we aimed for that with all of these. And we hit the nail pretty much on the head of what we were aiming for, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Nice.
Well, hopefully people enjoy more of your new album too. That's coming out in February. It's called Stew. I'm guessing it accompanies Soup, which was your previous album. What's up with these soupy names? I know it is soup season.
Is it a winter thing?
And it's coming out in prime soup season territory.
Yeah.
So is it the vibe?
Yes and no. I don't ever want to say that it's like a cold thing. I think it's sort of like a New England thing and also an our band thing. So like, tell
me the next one is Chowder. Just tell me.
Yeah,
the next
I was
one
about
is
to say
Chowder.
the next one has to be Chowder.
I've heard Chowder. I've heard Chili.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you have like a pretty good run of names you could get for.
Yeah. Well, I think that like the names themselves actually have dual meanings for obvious reason. Like across all of our releases, so all the way back to a record called Bliss, and then our full length that came out subsequently called Here Again. We've created this sort of through narrative throughout all of the music that connects point to point, which is literally just like, if you follow along with us, all you're really doing is following along with like our narrative evolution as human beings. But we try to create a lot of interconnecting points between all of those. The philosophy with Soup was that we wanted it to be sort of a feel good, feel better type EP. Like we wanted the whole thing to just sort of like encapsulate you for about 18 to 21 minutes, depending on whether you were listening to the vinyl or the Spotify playlist.
Nice.
And we wanted it to feel like this quick remedy to whatever ails you at this moment, right? And Stew as an LP is a continuation of a lot of the themes and a lot of the ideas that we talked about on that record, but it's also sort of what takes place when you take stock of yourself and take a look back at your experiences and allow them to sort of marinate in the way that they really do, and let yourself sort of stew on your feelings for however long you may need to for it to come to this conclusion of who you are, why you are, and what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? And like for us, that felt very purposeful. And so this like connective through line kind of inevitably led to the soup stew paradox, and also it's fucking funny. So like it's good for a laugh on its own right, which we feel like is sort of like good humor is a good way to get somebody into something in the first place. Yeah.
It's like you see, and I also would say this is kind of like a 90s thing because it's like the weird sort of off the wall type thing where, a band like Blind Melon becomes like this big, it's like, what the fuck is a blind melon? But then like you're interested because the name is interesting, and then you hear it and you go, oh, the songs are good too. So it's about kind of like breaking through the noise and having the thing that's different. And
it's that deliberate absurdity, that thing that makes you go like question mark, right? Like that thing that like literally puts the anime question mark above your head. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's like that little like whoop. Yep. Okay, I'll look at this for 30 seconds, and hopefully we catch your interest in 30 seconds.
Yeah, if you combine like all that together, I think you can get attention.
That's the hope. Right.
I'm also right now like kind of like, man, do I want to make a stew this week? Like I should make a stew.
A whole stew. You can make a whole stew with your weird cheap wine too. You just do the whole Friendsgiving smorgasbord actually, Brian.
Yeah,
delightfully subliminal messaging.
Dude, now I'm gonna name a record pizza and just be like, man, everyone's gonna want pizza after this.
What am I supposed to do next? Calzone?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Calzone.
No, it's actually Stromboli. You have to mix it up like big time. Really throw it left field.
I would have to like have some sort of pizza sponsor for that. Like I couldn't do that without getting some sort of, you know, cash on the back end for all the advertising that a record called Pizza does. You got to find your favorite stew shop and be like, yo, can we make an agreement here?
Can we do a partnership?
Yeah. What if you like back of
Under
the
the
CD,
table?
you know, we just have a
don't
little.
you worry, I got Campbell's on the horn.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, all right.
Hello, is this
have,
Mr.
like,
Campbell?
the Campbell soup
Dr.
coupon.
Campbell.
Every vinyl order comes with a Campbell soup coupon and a whole can of Campbell soup. Don't know which flavor. It's a variety choice. It's a surprise.
Dealer's choice.
It could actually like, not to tell you to do this idea, but telling you it is an idea. I'm like, that would kind of work. Like if your website, like you just had like a can of like a Will Away stew that people could like get in a gift box with a vinyl and all that shit.
Like random flavor.
Yeah. Like they never know what's going to hit them, but they're going to tweet about it. They're going to be like, I got soup.
See, you would sound a lot less crazy, or I'm sorry, you would sound a lot more crazy if we hadn't looked into all of these possibilities.
I love it. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that like this idea
crossed your mind.
Yeah,
of course.
I have all these ideas that I'm like, somebody's got to thought of this, and most of the time I'm correct. Like it's just the low hanging fruit is sometimes the best fruit to go for.
Just reach up and grab it, baby.
Just get
That's
it.
what you need to do.
Send soup to people. Sell the people
like
soup.
There's so many like new avenues for like marketing like that. That's like so much more fun than just being like, okay, here's like the album tea that like
you have to.
You gotta consider it.
You have to have fun with it. Otherwise, the entire thing is super depressing. Yeah.
I mean, in the rock scene, you know, we don't want to keep it depressing.
I mean, I would rather say how many soups did I sell and then get a number and then be like, oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. And then being like, how many albums I sell? Like, oh no, I feel worse.
We've
now.
gone
But
platinum soup. Our number of soups we've sold.
We started pressing platinum cans.
Yeah. Platinum cans of soup. It's, I mean, I assume that with your band being like, you strike me as a humorous person. Obviously, everything with the band is fairly like light and humorous, even though there's like, you know, we all go through the same shit. But it sounds like you'd have to have like some of that funny stuff in your marketing, like somehow, some way, because you're like sitting around just like tossing ideas, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna send them soup.
Yeah, no, we try to have fun with it. It's like. It's all about good humor. I think that like the philosophy whenever you're on the road is like, obviously, like if you're on the road, you're spending like, you know, anywhere between 6 and 13 hours in a van with a bunch of old greasy dudes who smell like you're like, how do you make this fun? Is like every day you're supposed to show up with a smile on your face and just enjoy what you're doing for the sake of what you're doing. Like literally kind of like, at a certain point, you feel like you're keeping the volleyball alive for just like good rock music and good people who are like here to have fun. And like it's my obligation at that point to sort of just show up with a smile on my face and always have good humor whenever there can be, right? Yeah. And I think that like, yeah, with the process of our merchandise and the process of everything else that we do, we aim to crack people up and have a smile and just like have a laugh about the whole thing, because otherwise, like, I mean, it's not just about like the whole thing of like being a musician or being anything else. It's like honestly being like a millennial adult in, you know, 2021 in a dying capitalistic society, and like if you don't find the fun in that, I don't know what the fuck you can find the fun in.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
Shaka,
like,
bruh.
Yeah, so it's like all we can speak to is our personal experience, and when we find that people identify with that, we like to try and make a laugh out of it, because like I've heard it said that like the laughter is the sound of understanding, and to me that always kind of resonates.
Never heard that before, but I like it
Yeah, I
a
never
lot.
heard that either. I was about to say, like, okay, is this why we always laugh in uncomfortable situations? You're like,
Yeah,
yes,
well,
I get
think
it,
about
but
it.
I
When
don't know
you
what
get
to
it, when
do.
you get the joke, you laugh. When
Yeah.
even if something is uncomfortable, even if something is stated in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, oftentimes most people's reaction is laughter because you understand, and that haha is sort of the sound of understanding.
I've heard laughter is a fear response.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends.
It's like
You can
like
be in
the
fear
idea
and
of,
understand the fear.
yes,
Well,
you can
figure it this way,
understand it.
Yeah. Fear is simply understanding your vulnerability.
Right. And I think it like makes you. I think a lot of jokes like come from like the contradiction. You're like defying expectations and like
Right.
you expect a band to be pretty like serious. You expect them to be very dramatic and man, and everything sucks, and I have a guitar, and it's like to be the band that's like fun and different from that is like kind of a different play on the expectations. So it's a little bit like, oh, this is funny and weird. I like it. It's just that's sort of like I'm not used to a band being happy in this world.
Right.
In this
And
whole
how
thing
could
that's
you be,
going on.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've all agreed that like, it's time to just go, you know what? Fuck it. Let's have fun because what the fuck else are we going to do?
What else is there?
Yeah.
To do?
What else?
Yeah.
What else is there to do on this bitch of an arch? I just think of that Luigi meme. Really,
God damn that Luigi meme.
my friend has that as a blanket. My friend has that Luigi meme as a blanket.
Yeah. It's a lot of dick. It's a lot of Luigi dick.
But what's funny about that?
Yeah.
The understanding
It's
of
because
how odd that is.
Yeah.
Of how large that is.
it's because we all assume.
And then you're thinking about, you're like, who did this? Who envisioned
Right,
Luigi like
yeah. You
this?
start
So-
to picture the person who even did it in the first place.
Yeah. The internet, which is the internet. But then like Nintendo also like released like images of the characters for Mario Tennis, like back before that was released.
Right.
And then randomly like they showed Luigi and he like kind of had a dick in it. And
Yeah, a
you're
little
like,
bit of dog. Yeah, I
like
remember this.
Nintendo,
I saw this. Yeah.
Nintendo, fucking relax, dude. It's Luigi.
Dude,
These are non-sexualized characters.
These are characters that they just exist to be there and to be like, yes, I like Mario. I
They
like
play
Princess
sports
Peach.
and
That's
they
it.
don't
That's
fuck.
it.
That is all they do.
My favorite thing about this is that all it took is a single designer at Nintendo drawing one singular half circle of stroke.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, it's all it ever took.
Aha! Thank you, Nintendo. I'm going to get all the bitches now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man, you got to find the funny in all of it. Otherwise, it's just like life is just too depressing if you can't have a good
Yeah.
humor about it.
I'm fine with Luigi, but I'm not okay with Sonic anything. Like in that same realm.
That's a different level because Sonic is a hedgehog. Therefore, he is an animal.
We're getting into some different territory. Here.
That's
okay.
why nobody
we all
should be fine with
agree.
Sonic.
I do
Yeah.
love me some Sonic, but like I could
Not
do
that
with
Sonic.
Yeah. Let's keep it real.
Normal Sonic.
I want my
getting
Sonic
the
to be
ring.
nice, pure, and asexual.
Yeah.
There you go.
100%.
As
As God intended.
God
That's all I'm saying.
built hedgehogs to be fast, spiky, and to save animals from robots. That's
wear
pretty much it.
badass sneakers.
And to wear
Yeah.
soap shoes so he can grind the fucking rails.
That's all I'm saying.
Purchases
To
I never
represent
made.
Soap for life. That's
Yeah.
all he's here for.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, we're bringing back soap shoes, please.
Oh no.
Soap, sponsor A Will Away and the pod, please.
Please, I will gladly take a soap sponsorship. I will also make a pro soap video if
Yeah.
we get that sponsorship. Elbow pads and all. I'm here for it. Let's make it happen.
There you go.
I never
Everybody
saw.
meet at the local high
That's
school.
why you
Let's
know
go.
that everyone
Sunday,
is-
6 a.m. Let's go.
That's how you know that everyone here is too old.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember Sega Dreamcast? Then you're too old.
Bro, I have a Dreamcast sitting
Oh my
in
God, you
living
do?
room
Hell
with
fucking
an HDMI adapter plugged
Hell
into my 4K
fucking
TV.
yes.
Sir. Yeah.
Dreamcast,
Do you have
head of the game.
Do you have the crazy taxi cab like attachment?
I yes, I do. Yes, I do. I also I have just a binder full, and this is hilarious because I don't know if you remember when we were kids, people would burn CDs and they would.
Oh, that's what I did.
The reason the
so
Dreamcast didn't make it.
Yeah, I have a binder full of burned
Hell
Dreamcast CDs.
Hell
Wait, do you have the Donald Duck game for Dreamcast?
Yes, I do.
Fuck yeah.
You guys are gonna have to come over and play.
We're coming,
Yeah.
Brian. We're going to Connecticut
Road
to
trip.
play the Donald Duck game,
Road
which
trip.
is your
Road
least
trip.
favorite character. I know.
Road
You gotta
trip.
do it.
I hate him. Dreamcast. The thing about having like a memory card that was also basically its own like Game
was
Boy
like a
as
Tamagotchi.
type thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is legitimately one of the greatest inventions in video games of all time. The Dreamcast was just so far
The
fucking
VMU,
ahead.
I think is what it's called.
Yeah. It's like precursor to the Wii U, which, you know,
Mhm.
nobody cares about that.
Dude,
No.
my favorite thing is when you play Virtua Tennis on the Dreamcast. If you have working VMUs plugged in, it shows in pixel art the 3D representation of you playing tennis
Oh my
on the
God.
little, like on the
Mhm.
controller, very much like the Wii U.
Yep.
So like every now and then I will challenge myself and see if I can play it. Just you can't.
Yeah.
By the way.
But you have to try just to see.
You
Just
have
Yeah.
to try.
That was just the
But
coolest shit.
You have to wonder who they even made that for. Because like if the person playing it can't play it, like
They probably made it for like a little baby to be like, here you go.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
look at
Do
this.
something with it. Look
it's
at
Yeah.
it. Don't bother me.
I mean, but it was ahead of its time. It was incredibly cool. I still play with it all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm one of those weird retro game nerds. I have
Oh.
like a bunch of old consoles sitting in my living room.
Yeah. You're not alone. I have
Yeah, I love it.
my Dreamcast is at my
Shouts
mom's
out.
place, and I'm gonna have to pick it up on Thanksgiving because now I
Yep.
want to get my Dreamcast.
Now we need to do a little Dreamcast.
Now I need to get my
Marvel
fucking
versus
Dreamcast.
Capcom on
Are we gonna
Dreamcast.
come over and we do a Dreamcast stream?
A dream stream,
love that.
a
A dream
streamcast.
stream? Oh my god.
Streamcast is definitely something
Guys,
else
the
out
next
there.
time that we're out in Chicago, I will literally bring the Dream. I
Oh,
have,
hell
yeah.
I
Let's
have more than
go.
one. I will bring a
Please.
Dreamcast.
you have multiple Dreamcasts.
Oh my god.
I bought them in an eBay lot so that I could mod one and have a backup just in
hell
case I
yeah.
screwed it up.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yeah.
No, that's Mega Mind energy right
Yeah.
there.
Like, oh, if everyone did, but at least I can still play Power Stone.
You're gonna have to tell whatever venue
At
is
least
there.
I can still play Power Stone.
Dude,
You're gonna-
precursor to fucking Smash Brothers. Well, I guess it was after Smash Brothers,
They'll
but it was
never
also
understand. They'll never understand. It's fine.
kids today. The fucking kids today. You'll never
Oh my
understand.
Any venue you go to on your next tour, you're gonna have to say we have. You're gonna have your like your ask. You're gonna say
Yeah,
I need
on
like
the
6.
rider.
We
Yeah.
need 6 blue Gatorades, and I need an HDMI hookup to play Dreamcast. Otherwise, I'm not going on stage
Yep.
tonight.
Yeah, I am
Yeah.
gonna have to throw that on the rider.
It seems
So
like an
when
easy
is-
rider, but like, damn.
I was about to say, but I feel
So
like people are gonna be
specific.
like, "What the fuck is this?" But I feel like there's been weirder things that people have asked for that I feel like is reasonable ask.
Yeah.
We have a pretty mellow rider. We asked for tortilla chips, a case of
Okay.
beer, a case of waters. We asked for some seltzers. We asked for some random snacks, like whatever happens to be like a decent local snack on the rider. And then we just want to make sure that there's like laundry if available or a place to take a shower. It's not like
Yeah.
we don't ask for much.
Yeah.
We're men of simple pleasures. Like,
Yeah.
You're not saying I need only blue M&Ms and that's
No,
it. You,
no.
like, freak out.
Although I respect the reason that they used
Yeah.
to do that because they just want
Story's
to make
good.
sure people are paying attention to the rider. Which,
Yeah.
I get.
I thought about putting that in the document that I sent to you, like for like
See,
this, and I'm like,
it
no,
would've
there's
been-
like nothing there.
It would have been funny.
Yeah.
I would have actually laughed out loud if you had. So
Now I'm gonna add it
maybe
in.
thinking about adding
Yeah,
it. in
Yeah.
the
we're gonna-
future. Yeah.
We're gonna have to edit it and just see who actually reads it because there's been a few people who pop on there like, yeah, I kind of skimmed it. And I'm like, okay, that's fair.
It's like,
But what if?
what if you don't
Yeah.
have any blue M&Ms for the pod? You know?
That's what I'm saying. And dude, the funny thing is, if you had put it in, I literally would have gotten a bowl of M&Ms. Like, just...
Dude, I got
For
this
like
interview.
right
I
here,
gotta
ready
get
to
some
go.
M&Ms, dude. I can't go on this pod.
Well,
They're
then
expecting me to
I
have
would have
candy.
asked you. I would have asked you if you read my rider. At which point you would have been like, "What rider?" And I would have been like, "Exactly."
I just like ask your manager for the writer just so I can be super ready. That'd be beautiful.
Knowing that, when is the next tour? If you're even thinking that far ahead right now.
Yeah, so we're waiting for our vinyl to be literally in hand, right? So like we wrapped up tracking this record in the early part of this last year. Originally, we planned on doing the touring in the latter half of this year, but we also kind of like COVID and all that. We wanted to make sure that like we knew what the actual lay of the land was before we went out. And so now it is that February to April window of the vinyl is in hand, and we're going to start walking in some tours. So right now we're hesitant to like say anything about what we're working on, but just like we're aiming to actually go out with vinyl in hand, and also in a condition in which people can come and see us safely without being terribly stressed out about whether or not they're getting their grandmother sick.
Yep. Absolutely.
So we're levying that balance. I obviously want to be careful because like if something terrible happens between now and then, we may not be out in the early part of this year, but like fingers crossed, as long as nothing changes, we will be seeing you guys in the spring. That is the plan.
Hell yeah. Good. Yeah, I think it's weird that like I've seen a lot of things booked for like March already. I'm but I keep forgetting that it's like November. I'm like, no, it's only like it's just a cold.
It's basically December at this point. What are we talking about?
It's just a chilly July. What are you talking about?
It is a chilly July. It's funny. My brother keeps doing this. I'll be like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Nothing. It's March 273rd."
Yep.
So I'm having a good time.
Like nothing is ever so collectively true in that way, and like I don't think that anything will be such a like shared experience in the same way of like we are still living through March of years ago.
Yes.
Dude, we all collectively lived through an incredible like once in a century human experience, and like I feel like everybody's want is to like jump on and move on from that, but like to pretend like it didn't affect all of us in some sort of deep and intrinsic and profound way seems really ridiculous to me.
Yeah, like you have to acknowledge the trauma that happened and be like, yes, we all shared this.
And we're all
now what's going on still?
It, maybe? Like,
you
hard
hope?
to tell. It's like
it's a hit or miss.
You run into friends you haven't seen in a year, and you're like, so how was your pandemic? Like, what are you going to say? And like, do you want to get into it? I don't know.
I literally find myself going like, oh my God, dude, I haven't seen you since last year. And they're like, that was 2 years ago. And I'm like, you're right. Fuck me.
Well, like Brian and I were talking about how we were thinking of like, oh, what albums came out this year? Because everybody's starting to put their album of the year together. I'm like, I have not thought that far ahead at all.
2019 still.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know when things came out anymore. I'm just gonna say if it came out during the year of COVID, which is literally 2 years at this point, it counts as this year.
Yeah,
I'm just going with that at this point.
It's like it's literally almost as though all of our brains collectively lost a year.
Yeah,
and no one is acting like that's what happened.
It's very like a lot of bands we've talked to have been like, we don't really want to make like a pandemic record.
Right.
And I'm like, how could you fucking not make a pandemic record? Like, I'm assuming you guys wrote a lot remotely. Like you weren't like together in the same place, but
no. So Stew is literally a pandemic record, in the sense that it was written and recorded during the pandemic. But it was also this thing that was sort of in fruition prior to the pandemic. Right. And so like, all the pandemic did was make it angstier and darker and like,
like how can you keep it out of the music?
You can't.
Yeah.
And to pretend like you can is fucking disingenuous, if I'm being fair. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, dude, we write about human experience. One of the things that we aim to write about is like the more mundane aspects of human experience. And what I find is that the pandemic was literally the most mundane, tragic human experience that has ever happened. And like, to pretend like that is not what happened to you is disingenuous. Like, we all just sat in our pajamas and watched Bo Burnham and anime and fucking whatever else and listened to random podcasts and tried to not go broke. That's what we all did for a year.
Yeah.
So, like, it just seems to me that, like, we should be carrying that into whatever moves forward, because this was significant and it's not going to happen again for a long time.
God willing, fucking don't, guys.
Yeah. let's knock on that one.
Yeah. Fucking everything I like is being in like concert venues. Like everything that I enjoy doing outside of my house is at a venue. Like I can't lose that again.
Every time I hear an update from like the schools I teach at, they're like, we might have to go virtual after the holiday. I'm like, don't say shit like that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that.
Oh, I want that. I want everything else to be virtual. I just want shows to be in person.
So I personally work remotely completely. So like the pandemic, and I have for a very long time. So like I was like ahead of the curve on the pandemic.
There you go.
But no, I mean, like, I would like this to be the status quo for most people, but I also don't want the world to grind to a halt, because people still need to do podcasts and people still need to run venues and people like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's tough in that way, but I'm like the venue thing and like having music is like that catharsis for a lot of people. Like, I don't know, myself, who's like, I'm pretty content staying inside all day. I'm pretty content like being by myself, but then like I want to go to a venue. I want to go hear music, and I want to like have that like back and forth of the two parts of my personality, I guess.
I'm very much the same. Like I find that like the greatest catharsis that I experience in life, and I know this is true for all my guys too, is like we bleed it all out on the stage, and we experience all of the up and down with everybody else, and like we relish that opportunity to connect with people. And so not being able to do that in the way that we're familiar with was a difficulty, but also being able to figure out how to do that in other contexts too has also been kind of incredible. Like I feel like through specifically our smaller channels, through like things like Twitch and Discord, we've been able to sort of like connect with people on a level that's like, hi, we usually get to know each other twice a year, and now I get to know you all the time. And like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like I'm humanized to you and you're humanized to me, and this feels really good. Like, so
the weird,
we're
like,
finding the silver lining. Like,
you're bringing more people together and like making more friends that you probably wouldn't have connected with on any other level. Like,
definitely, I've made
the
a tremendous number of friends the past. I was just going to say the past year, but it's been the past.
That's years. Hi, everybody on Twitch. You're all our friends now. Thank you.
We love you.
It's been nice to see and meet all of you over the past, I don't know, a couple days, months, however long it's been. We've known each other forever.
I don't know.
Before we wrap up here on the recording part and we talk to everybody over in the Twitch chat, I want to give you a minute to lay out all of your plugs, where people can find you on the internet, where people can support you, where people can pick up the record, pick up the vinyl when it's released, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we are A Will Away. We are available at A Will Away CT. That is AWILLAWAYCT on all socials. We are also available on Discord. All of your regular streaming platforms. We're on TikTok as well, much to my chagrin.
No.
I get it.
We're on Twitch as often as we humanly possibly can be. We enjoy the shit out of everything that we do. We're signed to Rude Records. Go to Spotify. Go to YouTube, actually. Listen to Karma. It is going to knock your fucking socks off. It is literally...
Make the epic shot worth it.
Yeah. It is everything that you ever want rock music to be, and we enjoy the shit out of it. And beyond that, catch us at a venue near you in the spring. That's about it.
make sure when you go, you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you leave a nice little like, hey, I love this guitar
Nice
solo.
note.
You know,
Tell
it's
them who
fucking
sent
rich.
you.
Tell them who sent you,
Yeah.
which was the band and also us.
Yeah, be like,
Yeah.
I saw you guys on Emo Social Club.
You
and it
guys
was
were over
sick,
there
and
on
also
your
that podcast is sick.
Yeah. So be that person. Let's get a million streams of it. You know, let's get a million views on the YouTube video.
Run it in the background on
Do
repeat.
it up.
Put it
Just
all
keep
in
it-
one playlist.
Yeah, show it
over
to
and
a
over.
friend. All bands are basically pyramid schemes in that you should show two people. Now,
But they're better because they don't say, "Hey, girly,
yeah.
I haven't seen you in a while, but I have an offer for you."
But
Oh my god,
I have
haven't seen you
I have an
since high school.
opportunity for you.
Yeah. I didn't go on Facebook today for opportunities. I went on Facebook to doom scroll. Leave me alone. Get out of my mentions. Karen. Fucking Cheryl from high school. Get out of my fucking
God.
mention.
Did you know a Cheryl in high school?
No, that was college.
Yeah.
I knew
Okay.
a Cheryl in college. She was very nice. She has not reached out to me.
I can honestly say that I've never met a Cheryl under 50 years old.
They
I
have
was
to.
about
They
to
have
say,
to be
all the
younger
sh-
at some point.
I don't believe it. I mean, the only Cheryls I know are over 50 years old.
If
That's
you,
it.
what if you like are you just decide at like 60 years old, like I'm Gertrude now. Now I'm Gertrude. I've never
That
been
might
Gertrude,
happen.
but today I'm Gertrude, and from now on I'm
I hate that.
Gertrude.
See, that would be more appropriate to me than somebody naming a baby Gertrude.
Yeah.
There is
Like,
there is a
Like,
certain,
I would have to like
apologize to all the
sue.
parents of Gertrude out there, but
that is
Like, you'd have to sue your parents. I feel
Yeah,
at a point. 'Cause you'd be like,
100%.
why did you give me this terrible name?
100%.
yeah.
Like, I knew somebody I went to high school with, and he had a kid, and I was like, oh, let me see like what he named the kid. He named the kid fucking Eugene.
Yeah, that's an
It's-
old guy name.
It's honestly, it's honestly, and I don't say this. I don't say this to be, exaggerating. Child abuse. It just straight up is. It just is. Dude, you're like, hey, I want to name you this, and then it's like, oh, go out into the world with it. Like, no, you're setting that child up for disaster.
Look,
You're letting that kid get
low-key
bullied.
agree with you. I low-key agree.
You're allowing that child to get a sign off early of being bullied for their entire
Yes.
childhood.
Yes. Do you remember Hey Arnold by any chance, Lizzie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Hey Arnold. What are you
I
talking
figured
about?
we
I'm not
shared
that-
that. But
I'm
Lizzie's
only 26. I watch things.
Eugene was the sick kid in that, and he always had
Yeah.
like something wrong with him.
That's
That's
what I
fucked
think
up.
about.
If
That's what I
anybody
think
our
about for that
age
child now.
Names a child Eugene, that kid is like that kid has an autoimmune disease immediately. Like that sucks. Don't do it. Well, what a way to end the episode. Thank you all
Don't
for
name your
checking.
kids terrible things.
Yeah, don't do it.
Listen to A Will Away, Karma. Think
listen
about it.
to
sit
A Will
on
Away.
it.
Also hug your local Eugene.
Hug your local
Yeah,
Eugene.
make sure they're okay.
Be sure you're still wearing the mask though. Those kids are sick all the time.
Yeah, they may they need you to wear the mask, please, and to get your vaccine. Thank you.
Get your vaccine, please. And go stream Karma, A Will Away on YouTube.
Yes, please.
Matt, absolute blast having you on tonight.
Yeah.
Man. Likewise, this has been a great time. Thank you guys for having me.
Hell yeah.